Hi, Helena.
Hi, Adam.
And hi to all of our listeners. We are back for another episode of High Notes and Anecdotes. Before we kick off, just a brief intro of who we are. My name is Adam Miller, and I'm a former opera singer turned producer, writer, and director. And I had the great privilege of working with you and growing up with you over the years, Helena.
What a privilege it was. My name is Helena Dix. I am an opera singer, a lover of high notes for many years now. And I travel the road, travel in the air, working with some of the best opera houses in the world, and I have lots of tales to tell. So let's get on with telling those tales. I'm very keen to know, Adam, what do we talk about in today's episode?
Well, this is the travel episode. We're going to share some tips, some tricks, some adventures, and some misadventures from the road. If that sounds interesting to you, listen on. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I think this is the episode. This is it. This is the travel episode. This is the one where we're going to talk travel hacks, travel tips, and places to eat around the world. I'm very excited.
How long have we got?
Well, you know, we've got as long as we want. Some of these episodes have gone for 20 minutes. Some of them have gone for half an hour. Sure, this one goes for a couple of days. You know what now? We've set the tone. If we don't speak for a long time on these topics, we suck. Like, what are we doing? What kind of international travelers are we?
I can't believe you said the words "we suck" already in the first minute of the podcast. Well done to you.
It's what I do. It's probably the closest I'm going to get to us swearing, because I don't want to have to spend all of the episode bleeping out all the swear words. So let's just say that's as bad as it gets.
I have been so well behaved, can I just say?
Oh, I've been sitting here with the bleep button ready to go and haven't needed to bleep once. I'm delighted.
The bleep button, is that like the golden buzzer on X Factor? Like you just sit there with your hand just slightly above it, ready for me to say something absolutely disgraceful, like everyone else probably is as well.
Oh, I think that's the only reason that people are tuning in. They just want to hear you say something disgraceful.
Yeah, well, it happens regularly.
Right, so the travel episode. Let's just kick it off with, let's go with the tough questions. Give me some travel tips. What helps you? You're getting on a flight. You've got a show the day you land. What are you doing to get off that flight feeling as good as when you got on that flight?
Well, first of all, the show the day I land will never happen. It's happened once in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say, you must have done that. You must have done that at some point. I've done it heaps of times. Terrible mistakes, but I've done it.
I kind of refuse to do these things now because I know. I mean, to be honest, because I'm a slightly neurotic traveler, I would always make sure that I'm there the day before, because so many things can go wrong if you don't. And I think that the best thing was when I was working in Wexford doing Cristina Regina di Svezia, we had rehearsals, and two of us in the cast had the same show in Germany, in Lübeck. And we had to fly in, like you're saying, on the day. And everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So we had to be there for the evening. Fine. We knew the show. It was in the run of the show. And in Germany, there are so many shows in a season. So you're always flying in and out for the shows, right? So you do the opening of the show in Germany. You maybe do a couple of shows. And then literally I fly in and out for every single show that comes for the next, say, 14 shows or however many shows that you've got. So this, we traveled from Wexford, from Ireland, and we got there late. That was the start. Fine. So we got there a little late, but that's okay. We'd gotten up at stupid o'clock, and then we got on the train that takes us to the town that we were working in. Just all of a sudden, in the middle of the trip, all these kind of alarm bells start going and they start talking and everyone starts grumbling. And I was like, what's going on? And thankfully, my colleague was with me who spoke fluent German, who was able to, because otherwise, what do you do in that situation? So if you're traveling and you're in a country where you don't know the language, and all of a sudden there's people are talking and there's a lot, obviously someone's going to speak English, but do they want to help you at this moment in time when everything is going wrong?
They're saving their own lives at this point.
Exactly. So everyone starts to get off, and at quite a pace. My colleague's like, oh, no, come on. Well, there's a bus replacement. The police have stopped the line. There's something going on the line, on the train, that we can't get back on the train. They're going to shut the whole line down. There's police investigating, and we have to get on the bus. So we get on this, replacement bus, and there was like madness. Everyone's trying to crowd on there. And then we get on there and there's like gridlock traffic. So we're not moving. And my colleague was literally sweating because by now we were supposed to have been at the theatre and the delays were crazy. But I have been in that situation on my own before. In Germany especially, it happens quite regularly.
But their trains are supposed to be amazing.
Right. And Germans are supposed to be on time and everything is incredible. But there has been so many times where people just start to get off and start talking very, very quickly about how disgruntled they are, and you have to end up, getting on another line or getting on another those kinds of things are really hard. Getting back to the actual question, travel thing. So yes, never fly on the day of a show. I really would say that. If possible.
Wait, I still need to know, did you make it on time?
We did, but they had to change all the makeup calls and everything. So, I was
So you ended up wearing like Shrek makeup.
Well, that was just the makeup I had on anyway.
That's why they stopped the train. There's like, what is this person wearing green on our train?
For a Domineo, I had crazy wigs and I had like big false nails. And look, let's just say there was a team of about 6 people ready to get me going. But that's stressful and that's not good for you vocally.
See, that's an episode right there. I want to explore down the track in another episode what that process is before the show.
Stuff that goes wrong. So yeah, travel. So what happened to you when you had to fly in on the? You said you've done a lot of shows where you've had to fly in on the day.
Oh, I've done it. I've done a few. Yeah, because the nature of a lot of the work I did, I was often juggling shows. So I might be rehearsing in one town, but I'm singing in another. And so I used to do a lot of commuting, especially between London and Scotland when I was singing with Scottish Opera. I did a lot of flights and a lot of trains on show days to get me up and to get me back. And it was always harrowing, but I never missed a show. I remember I was doing a season in Canberra, one of the early shows in my career, and I was singing with Opera Australia, but also singing with this company in Canberra. And I was traveling quite often with a tenor who was in the same 2 shows, and we traveled a lot together. And he had this thing where he refused to get on the plane until they called his name. So we would be sitting there and it was like he was playing chicken with the airline going, you're not going to leave without me. So I'm just going to wait here. And it was harrowing. It was just terrible. And I'd sit there and I'd be like, come on, everyone's on. Let's go. And he's like, no. They haven't called my name yet. I'm not getting on that flight until they call my name. I'm like, what are you doing? And I would get up and he'd like pull my arm and nope, sit down. They're going to say our names. And they would. And he did it multiple times. It was, well, I came to find it charming, but at the time and those first couple of times, I kept just thinking they're going to leave without us. But they never did.
Can we just say that tenors already get enough attention? Like, why did he need his name?
I think that's what it was. A, he didn't want to have to sit there for any period of time. And B, he just loved the attention. And come on, who doesn't know a tenor who loves that attention?
That is disgraceful. I mean, the next thing you know, he's going to be ordering a spotlight to be at the airport lounge, like Mr. Blah, 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 spotlight. Oh, is it me?
Oh, no.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, it's my time to fly. See, if I was flying with someone like that, I'd just leave them behind. There would be no way I would deal with that. You know what I was going to swear then.
But then I'd be sitting. That's the thing. Like, that's the genius of it. And maybe that's the travel hack, is that if you don't want to be sitting on a plane for any longer than you absolutely have to, wait till they call your name.
Yeah, well, I kind of get that. Although I would have anxiety about not fitting my luggage in the overhead compartment and then them having to put my luggage halfway down the plane. That would give me anxiety. So I like to be there early. I'm trying to think of, some of the hacks. I guess I'm a very set traveler in the way that I do things. So for instance, when I travel on planes, if we're talking about planes, my gown, if I've got an opera gown, if it's a concert and I have to carry one of my gowns with me, never goes underneath.
That's good advice. Yes.
Except the only time that didn't work was I did a festival recently in a little island right up the top of Scotland, and they wouldn't let me have any baggage on board because it was this tiny little connector plane. There was no cabin baggage allowed apart from the tiniest handbag. And this is the first and last time I have ever put a dress in underneath, and they lost my luggage, and it didn't turn up. And not only that, but it was a really short turnaround for the festival. So I had no luggage and I had to walk into rehearsals on day one. B, I had a Carmina Burana and a Purcell concert to do, and I had 2 separate gowns that were in that bag. And 3, I'm not the kind of woman that can just go to Tesco and get clothes. Like, it just doesn't work like that, and, some people can just go to a store and get a concert dress. Mine doesn't work like that. And I design all my dresses as well. So each of my dresses is lovely and design. Nearly had a nervous breakdown. So, but that was by force. So actually.
Okay, but we need to hear the rest of this story now. So you arrive on the island, you've got no luggage, you walk into rehearsal on the first day. Have you got your score?
No. So,
oh my God.
So nothing. So I had rehearsals on the first day.
That is literally a nightmare. That is my idea of an absolute nightmare.
It was hell there. So I arrived, they buggered it up. They said it was going to be there the next day. It ended up turning up like the day of the show or so, like the day of the first show. So it was like 3 days later or something. The case ended up turning up. And
had someone been wearing the dress?
If they did, I haven't seen those pictures. Good luck to them if they did, quite honestly. I hope they did a few twirls.
You can see that there's a baggage handler out there somewhere wearing fabulous gowns.
I actually said that to the guy. I got off the plane and I said, I went inside and they told me that my luggage had been missing. And I said, yeah, one of those guys just wants to wear my frocks. Like, I know that this is the deal. Anyway, they turned up literally just in time. But in the meantime, I had to replace everything. Lesson learned. Not that it was my choice to do it that way. But usually I would travel with a cabin bag, and in that cabin bag will be anything to do with my performance stuff. So if I'm traveling for concerts, it'll be, whatever it is. So the jewelry, the dresses, the scores. So it's always so heavy. So heavy.
And that's just all the jewelry.
When at some airports, Australia's the worst for it, actually, they weigh your cabin bag. In England, they don't do it so much. And in Europe, they don't do it so much. Because if you've got the right size, they don't care. But in Australia, it's like, oh, you've got a weight restriction in that bag, because they're thinking who in their right mind could get anything heavy, into that bag. And I got sprung, actually, because I had dresses, scores, jewelry, but it was so compact, and I'm such a good packer, by now. And this woman weighed the case, and she's just like, what is in your case? I mean, I think they thought I'd killed someone and folded it up into the thing. And I looked at her and I went, do you want me to be honest? She's like, yeah. And I went, a corset, 2 opera frocks, an opera score, some jewelry. And she's just like, what? And I went, yes. And I'm a big girl. So, they're not flimsy little pieces of linen. This is like corsets to hold up these bazungas, and, a dress that does the same. It's got to strap all this in. And because I made her laugh, I ended up getting past it.
I remember getting held up in Texas when I was traveling through the States, because, again, we were carrying kind of critical things for an event that I was producing. It was a strange event, but it was an interactive zombie apocalypse game, and it was so much fun. But one of the critical parts of it was that every person who played it wore a dog tag, and there were about 2,000 people playing simultaneously in this game. So I was carrying 2,000 dog tags through the airports within the States, and we got to Texas, and they stopped me and they're like, sorry, what have you got in your hand luggage? And I said, oh, it's some dog tags. And they immediately took me to one side because they thought I was starting a militia. Because, if you're going to Texas and you're carrying 2,000 dog tags, there's an excellent chance you're trying to start a militia. So I was quite fortunate to get out of that situation, and I did finally convince them that I was just a big nerd who was running a big interactive zombie game.
I've also had, when I was traveling in and out of Germany to do the shows, as I told you, you'd go in and do a show, come back. So I'd only ever have an overhead, like a cabin bag, basically. And they had my costumes and everything. So I didn't have to travel with those things. But and this is going back to travel hacks, I always travel with a steamer. This particular steamer is an old-fashioned steamer that you can get here in England, and it's kind of a big ceramic pot with a pipe, like it looks like a teapot almost, and then you add a glass mouthpiece, and it looks like a bomb. Like it actually looks like, it definitely looks like it could be you wanting to, smoke
Helena Dix
cool
carrying
stuff.
drug paraphernalia through international airports. That's genius.
Anyone who knows me knows I am the cleanest. Like I don't do anything like that. And I was perplexed when they stopped me. And he's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "It's a steamer." And he's like, he did the little inverted commas thing with his hands. He's like, "It's a steamer, yeah." And I'm like, no, it is. And then I'm like, I sing high notes. It's hot air. So that's one of the things that I do travel with, a steamer, because, a kettle in a hotel room doesn't really cut it if you're, especially a lot of young singers go off for auditions and things like this, and they have to stay in a hotel the night before. So a steamer for me.
So you're talking about a steamer for your vocal cords, not for your clothes. Right. That's where my brain went. I immediately went, no, you gotta have the clothes looking great. But of course a steamer for keeping yourself
hydrated. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say on that front, humidifiers. Have you used those?
Oh, I was one of the first to use a humidifier. Yeah.
Oh, really?
In fact, my testimonial is on their website, and I know the guy.
I'm going to have to check
because
that out.
When I first checked it out, I was like, "Oh, this is revolutionary for singers." And back in those days when I first started to travel with a humidifier, many years before COVID, everyone would look at me like I was dying of tuberculosis or something, and it was great because what would happen is I travel with this mask on, which the humidifier, for those of you who don't know, has like an antibacterial filter built into it. And you wet it and then you breathe in your own air. So instead of breathing in the recycled air, it's got a little filter. You're kind of doing your own air, and it keeps quite humid, and it's lovely for the voice and for travel. And they've actually been proven, the humidifiers are used by a lot of the great Australian sports teams as well when they travel. They've found scientifically, I don't know how because I'm not clever enough, but apparently it reduces jet lag and things as well. So that's really interesting. And they use it, the sportsmen use it too. But I was one of the first to contact this guy and say, "Hey, you should market these to opera singers because these are fantastic. This is one of the things that we suffer from is this, recycled air on the plane." And so he got me to write a testimonial, and he sent me out. I remember sending me out a few products at the time, and I tried them for him, and we chatted about what was good and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so humidifier, I'm one of the original gang.
I didn't know that. I'm a massive fan of them. I lived and died by my humidifier when I was traveling a lot and singing. And again, singing on the same day that I'd be landing. They were just fantastic for keeping the cords nice and hydrated. I've got to say, I discovered the same effect as you, that I would sit down on a flight and people would look at you sideways, assuming that I was going to infect them with something. And I often ended up with a spare seat next to me. So it's got that benefit as well.
It was weird all the time. But now with COVID and people wearing masks quite regularly, people just look and think, "Oh, she's got a fancy COVID mask." Like that's all people think now.
And is there any technology that, apart from a humidifier, is there any technology that you just can't live without while you're traveling?
Actually, the only other thing I find on long haul flights, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I don't actually watch any movies at all unless I'm
okay.
Eating.
We're stopping
so
this. We're stopping this episode right now. You've lost me. That's the only reason I like long haul flights, is that I can watch television for 18 hours straight and no one can judge me.
I actually feel quite unwell if I do that, and I don't know whether it's just a sensitivity that I have, but I've quite a sensitivity in my eyes. So if I'm reading music for a long time, or if I'm looking at something for a long time, it actually fatigues me. I get headaches and I feel quite fatigued. And I've got glasses and everything, so it's not that kind of thing. But I love to listen to my scores of whatever I'm doing, like on repeat over and over. So, but again, I don't like to read them. So, everything is more audio, and I'll download like a podcast, or I'll download things to listen to, but I tend to find my jet lag is worse if I watch movies and things on the plane. So that's just a little thing for me. that I do. I like to have earphones to block out the sound, but I mean that's that's not revolutionary, but that helps too.
But it's a thing. Like I've got a big flight coming up later this year, and I immediately went right noise cancelling headphones because that noise cancelling technology is fantastic, and it blocks out the drone of the plane, and it's a game changer. So noise cancelling headphones. The other one that I love when I was doing a little bit of research about the great tips and tricks for flying are the Bluetooth connections that you can put into your seat, so that you don't have to worry about cables and getting up and all that kind of stuff, which I love. So I'll be going full Bluetooth on my next flights.
Love it. The other thing that I tend to travel with is like little hydration salt tablets. So like Hydrolyte or the similar kind of thing. I find them really helpful. And in America, actually, they have ones that are specifically for flying and for jet lag. And I find that they're really helpful, not only during the flight, but actually like a couple of days after the flight. Yeah, I usually take it's got vitamins and replacement salts and things like that. Just again, it's just getting the body hydrated again, and not just with water, but with replacement salts and things. Because I think running around airports and chasing lounges and all that kind of thing is actually it can be quite taxing, and it's a lot of people, a lot of people.
Yes.
I mean, I flew when Australia had the quarantine thing going on with COVID, I was one of the first people to fly back into Australia, and I flew into Sydney, and then I went to sing in Canberra when I did Clemenza di Tito, and that was my first opera back after COVID. And that was the most bizarre thing in the world because we had the flight, but then when you got off the plane, everyone had to line up against the wall. There was no one else at the airport. It was one flight at a time. Then you got ushered, you got your bag, but then you got ushered onto buses. No one could ever just linger or go anywhere else in the airport. There were doctors that were checking you out when you came out. Like it was such a bizarre flying experience.
Wow. And you also, I remember at the time you were in one of the rooms that didn't have opening windows.
Oh,
is that correct?
That's correct. Because if you're a single person, if you're traveling on your own, you get punished even further by going into hotel quarantine with a small room with no window. So my room was 13 steps wide, but if you were a family, they put families into apartments that you could open a window or do things like that. But yeah, if you flew on your own, that's it. You were banished from fresh air for a long time.
That's tough. You were going stir crazy around then as well, as I remember. So when you're traveling around Europe, do you find that you fly more or you catch the train?
I mean, if I can catch the train somewhere, I will always do that. So I had a huge contract in Brussels last year, and the Eurostar is just so easy. I also took it to go out to Amsterdam as well. It's so much nicer, I have to say, than flying. And I'm talking predominantly vocally. It's so much nicer on the voice and so much healthier not to be around that kind of plain air and things. So yes, if there's an option, if it's epic, like, if it's like get on the train and sleep for 2 days and wake up somewhere else. No thanks. I'm good. I'm okay with that, with not doing that.
What are your tips and tricks then for the Eurostar? I'm specifically talking around St Pancras, King's Cross, St Pancras. Like, how early do you have to get there? I'm asking because I'm literally going to be over there later this year, and I'm like, I should just get these tips and tricks now while we're on the air.
Eurostar's great. They've now installed automatic barriers, so when you're doing passport control, you don't really have to stop anymore. It's just all automatic.
Oh, I love it.
And they read everything electronically, and that means that people get through a lot quicker. The lines are never that big. There's a whole train station full of places you can eat beforehand. But I always turn up for a Eurostar a couple of hours early. I will then get some brunch. They're really quick at all the places because they understand that people are traveling. Get some brunch, go through the line, and then inside the gate is there's a couple of like little places to sit and chill out, and places that you can get a coffee and stuff. And then you just you get on. I think everyone's different in the way that they travel. For me, I always choose a seat that's close to the door for the Eurostar because there are luggage racks that are the predominant place that you put your suitcase on. And if you've got a heavy suitcase, you have to put it on the racks. You can't put it above your head. And so if you've got big cases, choose a seat that's close to there. If you're a bit worried about someone grabbing your case, like I am, I like to
taking your case and wearing your dresses. That's really what you're worried about.
Exactly that. I just don't want someone to upstage me. That's the issue.
Well, I'm going to say we might wrap it up here for this episode. It's been a fantastic travel episode. I think we've got enough travel stories and enough travel tips. We might have a few more because you know what we didn't get to? The thing that I'm still obsessed with, the food. We still haven't spoken about the great places to eat around the world. So let's save that for another episode again. Maybe we'll never get to it. But in the meantime, let's hope we do. And we'll see all of our... We're not going to see people next week.
We look forward to welcoming them back.
Oh, that's good.